swing there building up over the week, and as I mentioned earlier, we speak now to Dr. Gugu Mazibuko, a senior lecturer at UKZN, specializes in Zulu heritage and culture. Dr. Mazibuko, thank you very much for your time and for joining us on Newzroom Afrika. We are seeing visuals of Mabuto as they prepare to transport the mortal remains of the late Queen Regent back to KZN. Talk to us about what could have been the rituals that are practiced at a time like this. I know that it may not necessarily be an issue or something that is done for royals. We know that also just generally, if someone passes away far from their place of birth, there are some rituals that are practiced. In this particular situation where you have a member of the Zulu royal house passing away far from KZN, what would generally be the practices that go with transporting their remains back home?
Thank you, Polly. Maybe before I answer your question, I just want to say that this is the sad moment in the entire Zulu nation, barely a month after the passing of the king. And this has taken the whole nation by surprise and left all of us in shock and sadness. And as we see what is taking place now, it is indeed sad. However, about the taking of the remains of the late Queen, one would say when someone died or passed on far away from home, there are special rituals that are handled by the members of the family in bringing back the spirit of the one who passed on. In the case of the royal family, it is very private because the royal family rituals are handled in a very special way, and I can regard that as it's sacred how things are handled for the royal family members, and it's not everyone or anybody who can know exactly what is taking place, but we understand that for now they will take the spirit of the Queen back to the palace in KZN.
Yeah, and ordinarily, who would accompany the remains of the Queen? Who would you say are the special delegation that have been sent to Johannesburg? I know I'm asking a very difficult question of you, but just for the public to understand the significance of this.
Maybe I think it's important to mention only that it's not just an ordinary person. It's the regent queen. So that is why you see all forms of all groups of Amazulu accompanying the royal family members, like Amabuto, like women in their traditional attire, because they are it's the royal throne or the royal chair that they are bringing back as the regent queen passed on in Gauteng. So the convoy, the group of Zulu people that you see there is because it's not just an ordinary tree that has fallen, but it's a big tree.
Indeed, and we understand the position that she held, as you mentioned earlier. She was the regent, basically Ibambela, if you were to put it in Zulu, because Isilo had just passed on last month. Talk to us about the ceremony that will be held to lay her to rest, because she, in effect, is the leader of the Zulu nation. Will those, or will that ceremony mirror what we saw when Isilo Samabandla was being laid to rest?
Okay, Xoli, maybe one should say this. The whole process of planting, in the past it was the king, this time around is the regent queen, is handled privately by the members of the royal family. So one would not say who will be in, who will be not in that particular space when the queen is being planted. But the royal family is the one who will make announcements that this is how it is going, like in any ordinary Amazon family, because the elderly people, there are royal protocols whereby the people responsible will advise the nation that this is how it is going to be performed. What we know for now is what we were told by the traditional Prime Minister, Prince Buthelezi, that it will be a private ceremony, and it will be happening at her palace, which is Kwakhangela Mankengane. So the other finer details of the entire process are private and are handled by the royal family members.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, Dr. Mazibuko, this is quite a moment that is unheard of in the history of the Zulu royal family, that the king passes away just a few weeks ago, and within a short time, the regent then also passes on. It then brings to question the very name of the person you mentioned, the Prime Minister, the traditional Prime Minister of the Zulu nation, Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Was it inevitable that the divisions we saw playing themselves out in the last few days were at some point going to show themselves?
About that, I must be honest, I cannot comment on that one, because my expertise only ends is on culture and traditions. So on the other issues, apart from the culture and the traditions, the customs, I cannot really comment on that one, because they are outside my jurisdiction.
I totally understand. I guess what I was asking you is, what's your sense of how the Prime Minister has handled these divisions, because they did play themselves out very publicly?
Unfortunately, I must say no comment.
Totally understood. Let's perhaps wrap then our conversation, and I want to ask of you, how soon would a decision to appoint whoever is going to lead the Zulu nation? I mean, at a time like this, and as you said, this is uncharted territory for the Zulu nation. Never before has the king passed, and in a short time the regent also passes. So there is that vacuum in leadership. How soon would you expect someone to be appointed?
All I can say is that let us hold on to the statement that was made by the Prime Minister that no vacuum will be left. So we don't know when, but we are all counting on his statement that no vacuum will be left. So we are hoping it's going to be soon.
Yes. And the Queen, as the Zulu nation prepares to lay her to rest, what do you think she is going to be remembered for, in particular, whether it be culture or the heritage, the legacy of Queen Mantfombi Dlamini-Zulu?
The Queen, well, she was a hard worker in various capacities that upheld the Zulu culture and traditions, like the Isivivane ceremony. She was leading the Isivivane ceremony, which is the women or female-only ceremony, helping women to know their rights, to know their culture, to raise their children well, and many other incredible women-building projects. And also the Queen, being a princess from the Swazi to coming to KwaZulu-Natal to marry the king of KwaZulu, she enhanced the relationship between the two kingdoms, because in the ceremonies we will see the people from Swaziland joining us in our ceremonies, and we as women from KwaZulu joining the ceremonies in Swaziland. So she always strove for success of the nation. Yeah. That's how I will personally remember her, because I've attended these Isivivane ceremonies.
Yeah, and you talk about the Isivivane ceremonies. What exactly are these ceremonies, or what exactly forms part of that ceremony? What exactly is done there?
Okay, Isivivane, it's like a coming together ceremony of women, but not the maidens, of older women coming together to discuss the issues of building the nation, of raising children. So what happens here, when you compare Isivivane with a reed dance, Isivivane, women collect a bunch of reed to the royal palace. We collect it in the river and bring it to the royal palace as a sign of building the nation. It's unlike the maidens, because they just carry one reed. But as women, we carry a bunch which symbolizes coming together and building the nation, raising children, dealing with all the social ills in our nation.
Yeah, and you talk about social ills. Just a few days ago, in fact, I think it was yesterday, when the Minister of Cooperative Governance was in Guanangoma commenting on the legacy of the Queen, talking about how her work centered around making sure that things like teenage pregnancies, they are stemmed. How would you say she has done in that regard?
She has done so well, because one aspect I can comment on it mainly is gender-based violence. Because in that ceremony, that's where women are made aware. What is gender-based violence? How can we eliminate such? How can we make sure that our children, they don't get pregnant at a younger age? How can we teach our children to abstain? So those were the values that were transferred to all the women, to all the girls in such ceremonies and gatherings.
And if someone who is not familiar with the history of Queen Mantfombi and ultimately her marrying the Zulu king, Goodwill Zwelithini Kabheka Zulu, who is she? What do we know of her, apart from the fact that she comes from the Swazi royal house?
One would say she's the third queen to the late Zulu monarch, and well, she participated in many activities and many ceremonies, and was, you know, the queens sometimes they are not in the forefront because when the king is still alive, mostly we see the king, but they were at the back and in support of all the projects of the nation, supporting the king. So she was also there, even in the ceremonies, as I have already mentioned, the Isivivane, which was the one that was taking place in her own palace, Kwakhangela Mankegang.
Yeah.
So she was very active in the nation.
As we taper down, Dr. Mazibuko, she was known as the Great Wife, partly because she is of royal blood, marrying into another royal family, which is the family of the Zulu nation. Then there is the first wife, who is Sibongile Zulu. Talk to us about Queen Sibongile. Who is she, and what kind of legacy and what kind of things that she would align her work with?
Xoli, I must say, I was prepared today to talk about the late regent queen, now that her remains are being fetched from Gauteng. So, yeah, maybe that's what I was prepared to discuss.
Yes.
However, in future, I mean, because currently we are mourning and we are looking forward to the planting of the queen. Maybe I can make comments not on the first queen, but on all other queens, because they have various responsibilities in the entire nation.
All right, totally understand your sentiments there, Dr. Gugu Mazibuko. She is a senior lecturer at the UKZN, specializing in Zulu heritage and culture. I must thank you very much indeed for your insights and really valuable information that you have been imparting here. Thanks indeed for your time.